Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm very excited, as always, to share our guest with you. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce you to and thank some people that we always thank. We'd like to thank brassandwinds.com, a Quinn the Eskimo company. When we are looking for brass and wind instruments, you know, if you've ever watched this before, that we love brassandwinds.com. They're fantastic people, very nice, very easy to work with, and they'd be happy to hear from you. Brassandwinds.com, a Quinn the Eskimo company. Do you want to learn how to play the piano for free? Come check us out at truermu.com. And if you want to study with a person, there's a better way to learn music. It's Willow Music. We would like to have you come visit us at willowschoolga.com. Well, now, without further ado, I want to introduce you to a guest of mine. This is one of the many wonderful young women that I've been introduced to through Bree Noble. And Miss Gail Gallagher, welcome to our show. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on. This is really exciting.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. So let's get started. A lot of folks don't know who you are. Tell us what you do to start.
For sure. So I'm Gail Gallagher. I'm a singer, songwriter, composer, and teacher based in Chicago. And yeah, I'm a full-on music professional. As a singer songwriter, my genre is musical theater folk rock. I like to say if Joni Mitchell and Amanda Palmer wrote a musical, Tori Amos was also part of that production team, then that's kind of the vibe that I have. And then I'm also a music teacher. I teach piano and songwriting for both kids and adults. And I'm really passionate about helping people find their creativity and find what lights them up about music. And I come at my teaching from a improv background. I've been a music director in the Chicago improv scene for nearly a decade, which is a wild thing to say. um, and so from that environment, I learned how to make creative choices on the spot, follow your instinct, and that appears a lot in my songwriting and in my teaching.
Great. That's
Yeah,
a lot of material. Let's break it down.
for
Did
sure.
you start as a musician from a little child, or did it come to you later?
I started with music from. So I started taking piano when I was like 5, and I did the thing where I was 5, and so I lasted for like a month, and then my mom was like, "You're gonna learn from a computer until you can respect a human," and
Ouch.
yeah. But then I came back to it at like age 8, and then took piano and violin, and was in choir in school.
Wow.
And then when it came to college, I was really into theater in high school, and I ended up majoring in theater performance, and then always wanting to add a music minor, but there was no way to juggle both. Um, but I continued to play and cultivate my improvisation skills, and then when I moved to Chicago, I saw that there was this music improv scene and just dove into that world. So,
Hang on, brief
yeah.
segue. What did your parents want you to do?
That's such a great question. So my mom really wanted me to do something in math and science. She was actually super passionate about women in engineering spaces, and when she saw that I was super into like I was really good at math and science, she was pushing that. And yeah, and that was a whole journey of a conversation, as any arts professional experiences. Um, we've eventually made our peace with that, and I think her stance was just go to a school that has a math program, at least humor me there.
So
So
you did that, and then you came out and said, "Nope, I can't resist the call."
well, yeah, I mean, I also, my degree is in theater performance and theater management. So I
Okay.
did study the management side of theater, and part of what I realized in college is that I enjoy the organizational aspects of things. So that's helpful, and I'm sure
Yeah.
that was very good for my mom's perspective on things for sure.
Yeah. Has
So
that
yeah.
come in handy?
Yeah, it has come in handy. In fact, I think so much of what I do, I do have this drive of, especially when I was acting, um anytime I didn't get cast in a thing, I was very good at like, well, I'm going to start my own show. And that's sort of my personality. I think that's why I enjoy writing versus acting, because I have some notes for how that's a whole other a rabbit hole to go down. But being an actor and being a actress,
Hmm.
there are just all sorts of adventures that your brain can go on when you're competing and auditioning for roles, and it's about how you look and all of that, and I'm
I
not about
love
that
rabbit
life.
holes. I love rabbit holes. Let's go
Okay.
down the rabbit hole.
Okay, we're gonna go down the rabbit hole. So yes, so I the long story short is that I majored in theater. I was, as a theater performance major, um, I often ended up, well, I did get cast in some of the main stage shows, but honestly, I found myself very passionate about shows where you could write your own work or create new things because, um, and I've made my peace with it being on the other side of a casting table, because when you're an actor, there are moments of like, oh, these people don't see me, or oh, they're gonna judge me, and all that. And as a director, you're like, you're just vibing. Like as a director, you're just like, you see all of these different people, and you just have to make snap choices. And in the long run, it is what it is. And um but the long story short is what I learned from acting is um I would rather have some control over the stories that I tell and that I'm involved with.
That's a very
Um
important thing to figure out.
yeah,
Not everybody feels that way.
yeah. And a lot of the work that I did when I was acting, I did find my niche. The hilarious thing, the main role that I had, when I was like a junior in college, I got my first main stage role, and I I in my movement classes I had been working through, like, I have a little bit of scoliosis, and like, and so like that affected like my movement in acting classes, and that was like a whole journey. And I am like a little bit more of a nerdy person, and like, getting out of my head was also part of my acting journey. And this role that I had, was this character named Isabel in this play called An Experiment with a Bird, with an Air Pump, and it's a very heady play. Isabel is the Scottish servant girl who is a hunchback, who is the smartest girl in the house. And it's like the 1800s, and she's the servant girl for this house of British people, and she's the only Scottish character in the play. Hunchback, incredibly smart. So if that did
Oh,
anything for my like nerdy, I'm gonna do my own thing sensibilities, I don't know what did. Like,
that's great. Where do you find a role like that?
oh man, it was actually really magical. It was but that was like the role.
Yeah.
And honestly, that is a character we don't see stuff like that. And so as a writer, like, I think that's super important
Mhm.
to have more characters, especially roles for women, where you get to explore a variety of different things, you know.
Yes. And let's talk about this sort of segues sort of into improvisation,
Yeah.
where you have paradoxically more control and
Uh-huh.
less control, both.
Yeah.
So it appealed to you when you discovered improvisation, or had you known about improvisation all the time?
Yes and no. So, in high school and middle school, like, I've been exposed to improv, and like improv in the sense of doing short form games.
Mhm.
Um and I did a lot of that in middle school and high school. And I'd heard of musical improv. I actually and this is really funny to me, having taught musical improv classes, but in high school on a field trip to Chicago, I was supposed to attend a musical improv workshop my sophomore year at Second City, and we ended up not being able to do the musical improv workshop because not enough people signed up for it,
Oh,
which like which is like, man, that's
that would have been.
truth.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I knew of musical improv, and then when I first moved to Chicago, I saw that there were these teams where they would make up musicals on the spot, and they had a
Whoa.
music director
Yeah.
making up the music, and so I talked to the person who was music directing, and I was like, hey, how do I do that? And then he referred me to his teacher, and then I it just went from there. um but in that space in college, when I was angsting about being an actor and all of the things, I taught myself how to improvise, and that was like my outlet. So like I had already this skill set of like being able to just get in touch with my emotions at this improv level, and then when I plug that into musical improv, like it's, instead of approaching it from as a musician and being like, oh well, this is the progression that I need to do, which I do sometimes. It's more like, boom, that's the gut feeling this scene is making me feel. I'm going to translate it in my brain, and then it comes out on the piano.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question about it? You had this thing, it was an outlet for you. It's
Mm-hmm.
always a danger when you take your outlet and then you hire it to do
Mm.
things.
Yes.
So how have you found that danger, or have you circumnavigated it?
Um so it really depends. I think there's definitely times when I'm using it to using the skill for like my work, and then there are times when, especially when I'm songwriting, and a lot of what I do as a songwriter is sort of the more doing it as an outlet thing. But of course now I'm like developing that artistry as well.
Right, right, right.
Um, so I think it's just there are elements of remembering that sometimes you just gotta chill. Um, I Every year I do this thing called February Album Writing Month, where I write 14 songs in 28 days. It's a international songwriting challenge. It's a
Is
really
this
great
RPM
community.
or is this a different group?
Fom.org.
Okay, because there's one called the RPM challenge that I've done a couple of times, and it's 10 songs, a little easier.
Oh, cool.
10 songs
Okay.
in a month, but
Okay.
sounds like the same thing.
Yeah, and I've done it the past few years.
Mhm.
A lot of the songs for my album are
Ah,
from the past couple years of Fom, but it is this really great time, and there are some nights where it's just like I just need to do something, and so if I start with a particular motif and then go from there, like it can be a place to just write songs for the sake of writing songs.
yeah.
And
Okay, that's great.
yeah.
Well, that's a great opportunity for us to talk about your album, which
Yes.
I've enjoyed greatly. I've gotten to know it. Let's see. First of all, I want to say now I'm a songwriter too, and one of the
Hmm.
things I always heard all the time from everyone is, "Hey, Adam, your songs sound very theatrical. They sound like they could be in a show." And for me, I never got that. I was like, "Huh? Why?" But that's then I heard your songs, and I had that experience with you. Wow, these songs are very theatrical. They could be the album could be a show that nobody's ever seen. Talk about that.
Um, yes. So I can't turn that off. Um, all of my songs sound very theatrical. I think that comes from the musical theater background that I have, and which has largely been, although I did not get cast in as many musicals as I would have liked growing up, I would sing along to all of the soundtracks in my car all the time. So I do have that natural musical theater voice to it, and I think also it's a theatrical storytelling is what comes naturally to me when I tell stories.
Okay.
My vision for the particular album is I do want to make it into a solo show of some sort, like to
Okay.
do it to incorporate storytelling and the
Mhm.
music. Um, but
So,
yes.
well, okay, so then you have a kind of a ghost show in mind for it. So as you were
Mm-hmm.
putting the songs together, you did see a kind of an arc to it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you talk about some of the, like, for those people that listen to the album and want to kind of get behind it without getting, before they get a chance to see your show,
Mm-hmm.
can you help us fill in some of the holes between the songs?
Absolutely. I'm going to get my water real quick. So the album is called Power of the Unnamed Passion.
Hmm.
And it is a journey. It is based on it. All of the songs come from the past 3 or 4 years. Yeah, 4 years. Working through and processing. My mom passed in August of 2016. After a long time with multiple myeloma and the whole thing. But anyway, so she passed in 2016, and the album is like that whole journey. Because right around that time, I turned 30, and the 2016 election happened. So
Yeah.
I had a lot of feelings.
It's a rough year.
Yeah, it was, and so the album tells a story of growth and what happens when your world starts to fall apart and you start to pick up the pieces a little bit. And from the first half of the album is intentionally, a lot of those songs are more like it hints at the idea that the world has fallen apart, you're trying to pick up the pieces, but there's a little bit of a performative joy to it. There's an element of like, everything's okay, I'm doing just fine. And there are songs about wanting to have too many beers and talk about philosophy in bars, but behind that need to have too many beers and talk about philosophy in bars is this heartache and this need of connection.
Yeah.
And um and then and
I
then
think
we
at Empty Wind, that's where it hit me like a truck. You know, I was listening to these peppy songs and all of a sudden Empty Wind with Dr. Kid on the cello. Yeah, yeah. So is that a moment, an intentional moment?
Oh, absolutely. That is exactly the turning point. Yeah, I have to know about your journey with it, because that's awesome that you've built this like relationship with the album. But yes, Empty Wind is the turning point. Empty Wind, I mean, the lines are literally, it's becoming more real. And for those who don't know, so Empty Wind is like the ballad, it's track 5 of the album. And yeah, and it encapsulates that moment where you hit like the first like cold breeze in November, and like the feelings of November hit, because that's like the cycle that we go through, especially if you've ever lost a loved one, and then the seasons hit, and then you're just like, oh no, I don't want to go to there.
Ah, right.
um
So the references in the songs about autumn, about cookies and pies and
yeah.
everything, there's an undertone there about missing someone that I didn't quite catch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so fall, which is earlier, is sort of a sibling, but it's still lighter because it's
Mhm.
like we're still going through the thought process. Yeah, and then Dog Song is the act break.
Right.
Um and the Dog Song, I actually recorded it right before the pandemic lockdown happened. And so for those who don't know, the Dog Song is the comedy song on the album, and it's about how when you see a dog, it just solves all the problems. But like there are some choices that were made in the production on that, and that was because like my friend Jake and I were putting it together, and we were like, after this, we're not going to be able to leave our houses. Let's put a slide whistle there.
So I'm not sure I understand. What is it? What was it about the production choices that would have done that? Explain.
Oh, I think there still would have been slide whistles,
Uh-huh.
but and I think we still would have made zany choices with it, but the zany choices were like coming out of the fact that we were recording this track like right as a shutdown was being declared.
Ah, I see. So there's
Yeah,
a kind of a manic aspect to it.
absolutely.
Right.
Which kind of fits with that whole part of the record.
Uh-huh.
So then we get into the second act, which starts with Slow Down,
Mhm.
which is that is like one of the more vulnerable tracks on the album, but I'm
Yeah.
very proud of the journey. I'm curious what your experience with it is.
Well, it's a message that now I'm not trying to reduce the song to a message, but the
Mhm.
message "Slow Down," as delivered by you, was very reassuring and a nice reminder. I don't know of anyone except maybe the Dalai Lama who doesn't need to hear that message. So it was like, oh yeah, okay, slow down. Yeah,
Mhm.
Gail is telling me to slow down. Okay, I'll slow down. I'm driving on the car in the road to work. I'm like, okay, I think I'd better slow down.
Good,
Yeah.
great. That's
And I got here.
amazing.
I didn't crash. And thank you, Gail, for saving my life today. And I saw a dog today too. Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm changing lives with my weird messages. Okay, great. Um yeah, so Slow Down, that is the moment where you realize, okay, some things need to change. And then we get into Bear in a Trap.
Mhm.
And Bear in a Trap is about it. It is both about the archetype of toxic friendships
Yeah.
and like a specific toxic friendship. That's kind of my "You're So Vain" moment. But but it is but that track is all about like how do you recognize that you need to walk away from a situation and also have empathy for the person.
Yeah. That's a very difficult balance. It really is. And a necessary one too, because if you don't have the empathy, you really can't walk away.
Hmm. Yeah, and then we get into Spacesuit Days, which is
Mhm.
the other single, and Spacesuit Days is a little bit more upbeat. Did you catch? There is a music video with it.
I didn't watch I think I watched the dog song video, but I haven't seen Spacesuit Days video.
Okay, so the Spacesuit Days video, my friend Maggie, it has a spacesuit costume because she does a drag king routine as David Bowie.
Oh, wow.
And doing specifically the Major Tom routine, and we filmed this music video during the pandemic, so it was great because like she had this bubble over her face and then we could like hang out and shoot a music video.
Oh, that's crazy. So
Yeah,
practically it just worked out because you're doing it.
yeah, yeah. And that
Okay.
song is pre-COVID, but it also kind of like it has some interesting meaning with it for
Yeah,
sure.
it resonates differently now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now my two favorite songs on the album come at the end, and
Okay.
they are 222 and Ghostlight. Let's talk about 222. 6.5 minutes long,
Yes.
really interesting. And there's a little bit, the thing that I find most interesting, I'm going to quote one of your lines to you. The 222 refers to synchronicity, where you see something again and again and you think the universe is talking to you. And in this case, it's 222. The gas pump stops at 222. Your clock
Mhm.
is at 222. It's February the 22nd. You keep seeing this. But the interesting line in it is you say, the angels are talking to you. I don't believe in angels, but I believe in you. That is a fascinating line, and I want you to talk about it.
Okay, great. So, yeah. First of all, that song is straight up haunted. Um,
I would
like
expect it to be.
it is. It's mildly haunted. I think and also being the skeptic that I am, say, communicating in that song. There are moments. Like. I think if you're playing the game of this song is about synchronicity, then you're just asking for shenanigans. But like there was like a
I'll have to
moment
try that.
where I was going for a walk and I was listening to the album in the mixing phase as I did when I was working on it. And in my mind I'm like, does this song want to be the last song on the album? And then I was listening to 222 and I'm like, does this song want to be the last song on the album? And then my earbuds died right as the song ended.
But it isn't, though.
But it isn't though, because I was like, no, you're track 11, because of course you're track 11.
Right.
um, but that is that is sort of the heart of the thing
Mhm.
is that um it can mean different things at different times. It can mean I believe in you, like I'm having this conversation with myself. It can mean I believe in you from an outsider perspective. It can it can mean I believe in you from the context of my mom, because my mom was a bit of an agnostic and a skeptic, and even though I have sort of a witchy spiritual connection that is expressed in some of these songs, I feel like even from the context of her looking down, she'd be like, I don't believe in angels, but like she would
Yeah.
still be doing that. Um, yeah,
What I
yeah,
like about that, if you don't mind my interrupting you,
yeah,
sorry, is that 222 appears in several different guises throughout the song, and then you're suggesting that the line "I don't believe in angels, but I believe in you" also appears in different guises throughout the song.
yeah, yeah,
Nice, really nice.
yeah. Yeah, that one's gotten really popular, and I'm like, y'all, this is the 6-minute track. I appreciate it.
Well, now it isn't the last song on the album, but the
Yeah,
last song on the album actually 222 kind of is the last song on the album, and then Ghostlight is sort of an epilogue.
yeah.
So, first of all, tell people what a ghostlight is.
Okay, so a ghost light is the light that is left on a stage to okay. So in practicality, you have a stage that is hanging out in the darkness and you don't want people to fall off the edge. But the spiritual aspect of it is the ghost light keeps the ghosts in the theater company, and you're like holding space for the shows and the characters and the people and the moments that are held in that space. You're holding
Mhm.
a light on for that. So what the song Ghost Light does is it holds space for the past. It holds space for the characters and the roles that have been played and that have been experienced throughout the album, and it also holds a light for people who have passed as well.
Yeah. Well, my take on the song was different from that, and you
Oh,
might be
please
interested
tell
to
me.
hear it. Yes. So, I used to do a lot of theater, and
Mm-hmm.
I understand the need for the ghost light, because when that curtain falls, you're going to kill yourself if there isn't a ghost light on there. Your song talks about the desire. It's at the end of the album, and it's like, okay, the curtain just came down. Something just ended. It's time to transition and move on. Um, the idea that you'll keep the ghost light on for me suggests that I haven't left the stage yet, even though the curtain is down. I should
Mm,
be going on, but I haven't had the courage to move on. And you're saying it's okay, take your time. You can sit there while the curtain is down until you're ready to go to the next thing. I'll leave the ghost light on for you so you can get out of there.
mm.
So thank you for leaving the ghost light on for me. I appreciate it. I'm trying to get out of something, and it's nice.
Whoa.
I've stumped the master.
No, that's yeah. Like that is it's here's the thing. I'm currently like I have my solo show writing class tonight for the writing of this thing, and so of the solo piece, and
Yeah.
so like getting a handle on what my metaphors are, I'm like, ooh, that's cool. I like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But thank you. Yeah,
Yeah. That's why it's
that
my
song.
favorite song.
Yeah, that's cool. And I like that idea that you're not saying like get out. You're saying like yeah, that the song can say like no, like this light is here for you. You know, do it, you know. So
That's
there's
what it's
like
for. Take your
yeah,
time.
just
Yeah.
take your time.
Not everybody's ready to leave the stage yet. It's a tough transition to move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Now what do we talk about?
Okay, great. Now that we've solved all the world's problems.
Woo! Well, we can't seem to transition. We'll have to just sit here with the ghost light on.
Ah, yes. I mean, yeah, that's cool. I now I'm interviewing you, but this is just very cool that
Okay.
you've listened to this album enough times that you've experienced the arc. So I'm curious what your other impressions were now that I've already told you all the secrets, but
Well, I'm curious about your production choices. It's a little bare bones, especially in parts. Sometimes it's just a piano and your voice, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the piano even seems like it's not even a person playing, like it's a sequenced piano. Is that an intentional choice?
Um, so here's the thing. I mean, it is bare bones in the aspect that like piano is my primary instrument and it's my first album and I'm figuring out how to like add all the things. I also recorded it completely remotely during a pandemic.
Right.
So
So
my
you did
drummer is a robot.
right.
And we all are gonna have to deal.
Well, it's a
But
little
yeah,
bit interesting because sometimes you've got guests on, like Dr.
yeah,
Kit, and
yeah,
so
yeah.
the contrast between the somewhat mechanical sounding tracks versus the live tracks, it's a little stark. I mean, I don't
Okay,
know if it's an effect you want, but that was one thing that struck me. I
okay,
found myself unexpectedly affected by the contrast.
okay.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about your music. Did you want to play some?
Yeah, sure. I can. Do you have any requests?
No, no. I'd like you to play the thing that either something we've talked about today, or if maybe there's a song that isn't on the album that you'd like to share. I'd like to hear anything you'd like to share.
Okay, cool. Let me do. I think I will do. What do I want to do? Where am I? What am I feeling? I'm gonna do Power of the Unnamed Passion. Because it's the thing that starts it, and that's good. That's a good place to start.
Okay. Gail Gallagher,
Um,
Power of the Unnamed Passion.
The world is shifting under your feet. You've lost all sense of direction, looking for meaning in a stranger's eyes, searching for connection. And there's a yearning in your soul for something that you can control, something that'll make you feel whole. Something's caught and you don't know what, but you need to take some action. Find a new way to be. That's the power of the unnamed passion. You wanna sing your I Want song, but you don't know what's wrong. Feeling some type of way. You wanna wish upon a star, but that won't get you very far if you can't give that wish a name. Cause something's caught and you don't know what, but you need to take some action. Find a new way to see. That's the power of the unnamed passion. Should I go to grad school? Should I get a tattoo? Should I get a haircut? Am I better than you? Do I run to Europe? Do I just grow up? Where do I find the answer? Cause something's caught and I don't know what, but I need to take some action. Find something that'll set me free. That's the power of the unnamed passion. So for now, follow your bliss. See what these feelings have to say. Cause you'll find that the things that you truly want will knock you off your feet someday. So you pray and you hope and you go with the flow, following your heart. The only way to get there is to start. Cause something's gone and you don't know what, but you need to take some action. Find a new way to see. That's the power of the unnamed passion. And you'll find that voice inside is your soul saying, let's go for a ride.
Gail Gallagher, The Power of the Unnamed Passion from the album of the same name. Gail, thank you. So by now, some folks are probably dying to know where they can get this album. Could you give us a hint?
Yes. So the best place to go is my Bandcamp page, gailgallagher.bandcamp.com. You can also find it on Spotify and iTunes and all of the places where you stream the music. But
And
yeah, and I
we'll
have hard copies available as well. Yeah,
great.
as
Will people be
digital.
able to see you live anytime soon? I guess we're waiting for the pandemic to end, but is that a possibility?
So I live stream occasionally. I am going to do something on so I actually have a single coming up on March 19th. It's called Tarot Song, and Dr. Kit Cello Punk is also on that track. And we're going to do a little Facebook release party on March 19th. And yeah, just go back and forth and share songs. Dr. Kit's songs are he his genre is cello punk, and it's very like it has its own vibe. It's very fun. It gets political in places, and it makes me very happy. Um,
Fantastic.
so we're gonna do a show on my Facebook page. But what I would recommend folks do is go to gailgallaghermusic.com and sign up for my Gail mail list. That's what my email list is called because it works. And then I'll just keep you posted on all the things.
Fantastic. Well, Gail, it has really been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Folks, thank you also for tuning in. Please like our videos if you like them. You know, we've got some fantastic guests coming up that you may or may not have noticed. Please check our playlist out. And if there's people you want to see or people you want that you want to see on this show, send them my way. I'm at Adam at willowschoolga.com. And again, you can find us at truermu.com. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.